Personally, I don't believe in the concept of karma. So Kevin writes this, I read it, right? And I know we are literally 1, 2, 3, 4, it's like 7 words in, 8 words in, but I kind of do believe in karma. Not in like the mystical, magical way, but I think if you're like putting out good shit into the world and being nice to people, people are more likely to be nice to you back. Like if you go into, I don't know, you got to get something done and you're like, oh, hello, how's your day going? You know, blah, blah, blah. I think people are more likely to like want to help you if you're just nice to them. So I do kind of think like what goes around comes around in a way. Call it karma, call it whatever you want. Any mystical bullshit? No, absolutely not. Like some secret shit where it's I'm just thinking positive thoughts and that's how I'm going to get myself a Ferrari. Obviously nonsense. Leave it alone. The secret fucking bullshit nonsense. While I'm sure it's comforting to believe that there is some mystical force in the universe trying to balance out people's actions, that's just not how reality works. In fact, that's not even really how karma works. In its original context, a person's karma was essentially the sum total of their good and bad deeds, which would determine their fate in the next life. It was never meant to suggest that the universe would immediately punish people in this life for their misdeeds, as such an idea is so demonstrably false. Yes, it is, because it's like... I fucking love the you know, when someone dies who is old and a piece of shit. Like, who was that guy who recently died who was a piece of shit? French guy. Le Pen, Marine Le Pen's dad. He dies at like 92 and I feel like, why do the good have to die young? It's like they don't. This guy was a colossal douchebag and he lived to like 92. But here in the Judeo-Christian West, where the vast majority of people don't believe in reincarnation, the word karma is more often used to refer to the idea of instant karma, where the cosmic punishment for a person's actions is both immediate and oftentimes ironic. School would always say, like, you know, if something bad happens to you after you've done something, so you're like, oh yeah, John, your mum, and then you'd fall over, and then John would always say, that's Jesus punishing you. It wouldn't be like Instacart would always say it's Jesus punishing you. Today's episode is brought to you by Vessi. Vessi are the absolute best. You know, they've sponsored this channel for a long time. I've been wearing Vessis for must be coming on 3 or 4 years now. And I basically don't wear anything else. I mean, I'm not wearing shoes right now because I'm at the office. And the first thing I do when I get into the office, don't know if it's appropriate or not, I just slip off my shoes. And by shoes, I mean Vessis. I slip off my Vessis. And then I just wander around the office, not barefoot, but just in my socks the whole day. And you guys don't need to see that. I was thinking I'll show you my socks, but I don't know why I do that. That's not even appropriate. This advert's about Vessis. Vessi make waterproof shoes that are also super comfortable. They also look great. They're just, you will get one pair and then you'll be like me. You'll just have like a dozen pair of Vessis for all situations. I've mentioned previously, I have worn them to a funeral. Might not have been appropriate in that situation. Probably should have thrown on some leather shoes, but whatever. I rock my Vessis. I'm brand loyal to Vessi. And they're waterproof because of a material called Dymatex. You don't sweat into them. You kind of think, oh, they're waterproof. Am I going to sweat into them? No, you're not. One, because it's winter. But even if it were summer, you're still not going to. Because somehow, through the magic of Dymatex, it's also still breathable. Look, I can't recommend these enough. I've been wearing them constantly for years. They're the best. You won't regret it. You'll just end up buying more. So make every moment this February unforgettable with Vessi. Visit vessi.com/blaze to grab your pair and get 15% off your first order at checkout. That's vessi.com/blaze. Thanks to Vessi for sponsoring all of these years, Vessi. I love you. Show Vessi some love by checking them out at vessi.com/blaze. And back to today's video. So prepare for a bit of schadenfreude while Florida man receives comic justice. Florida man flees hit and run, immediately crashes car. Yes! June the 2nd, 2023 began as a typical Friday morning in Miami for Lewis Kemp. At least it's referred to as Friday morning because it was technically the early morning hours, but if you haven't gone to bed yet, then as far as I'm concerned, it's still Thursday night no matter what the clock says. Yeah, these people are, oh, it's actually Wednesday morning, we're up past midnight. Shut the fuck up! It is Tuesday night!
Daddy, chill.
And I will absolutely die on this hill, and I'm right there alongside you, Kevin. We'd die together. We'd have some sort of weird suicide pact, Kevster.
What?
Anyway, Lewis was minding his own business and sitting in a red light when he noticed a pair of headlights coming up behind him. Now, this is obviously not an unusual thing to happen when you're at a red light, but the lights were coming a little too fast. Now, anyone who's ever been rear-ended before undoubtedly remembers exactly what it feels like, the moment you realize the car behind you is not going to stop in time. Yeah, I've never been rear-ended, but I have hit someone who pulled out in front of me, and it's just like, I'm just like driving, it's like I immediately see it, and I'm like, yeah, there's no, and my car is like, you know, it's clever. It like slams on the brakes and I'm just like, no chance. No chance. We're going straight into that guy.
That's a little gay.
There's nothing you do. You're just like, hey, there's not much you can do in that situation other than accept that whatever is about to happen is going to suck. And it did. The unnamed Florida man hit Lewis's car, backed up, and then drove off like a douchebag. Lewis immediately began following the car, watching as it sped erratically down the street, swerving around a bit. He then saw the car's tail light went up into the air and came to a stop. Oh wait, he just terribly crashed his car. His description actually made it sound like the car flipped over, though if it did, it would have had to do a full 360 flip in the air, as footage of the aftermath showed the car upright on its wheels. It didn't flip. Regardless, Florida man had crashed his car into the gate of a condo complex at what must have been a pretty remarkable speed based on the damage done to both the gate and the car. This guy's going to be like high on meth or something as well, isn't he? He's going to be in big trouble. Like fleeing the scene of a crime, like hit and run, that's a pretty serious crime, right? Like, because before, it's just like, even if you're driving without insurance or whatever, it's like, all right, well, you know, that was a mistake. You're not going to prison. But if you flee like a hit and run like this, I feel like, and then crash your car, and maybe if you're on meth, I feel like that's prison, right? You're going to get some prison time. While Lewis presumably had originally wanted to give this driver a piece of his mind and get his insurance information, assuming he even had insurance, now he was more concerned with making sure the guy was actually alive. Fucking good guy Lewis. I'll be like, and then I guess I would help them or at least call an ambulance. The driver was initially unconscious when Lewis pulled up, though he eventually woke up and stumbled out of the car. Once he exited the vehicle, Florida man offered to Zelle money to Lewis if he didn't call the police. Lewis replied, I already called the police because I thought you were dead. And that was definitely a fair assumption. The car was completely totaled, and it was fucked up to the point that I definitely would have assumed there were no survivors. Oh my god, then that's a big-ass crash. Although cars are so safe these days. You see some crazy wrecks, and it's just like, I just walked away. And it's like, how? Well, the whole front of the car getting destroyed is the point. Like, that's supposed to be destroyed. It's like the crumple zone, right? And then there's a million airbags and seat belts, and it's pretty incredible. Unfortunately, because Florida man's name wasn't released, there isn't any follow-up information on what happened to him afterwards. Though only speculation, it seems safe to assume that he wound up facing charges for a DUI. Not only would it explain why he wanted to pay Lewis not to call the cops, well, also because he did a hit and run, it would also explain why it didn't occur to him that doing so would be useless, since there was an entire condo complex full of people who were likely to have noticed the accident as well. Florida man tries to commit arson, tortures himself instead. Only in Florida. It began on the morning of June the 10th, 2021, shortly before 6 a.m. 51-year-old Florida man Scott Massa broke a window so that he could gain access to a house that he intended to set up in flames. Initial reporting said he was trying to set fire to his own house, though this was later confirmed not to be the case. I feel like it's almost more likely that someone's going to set fire to their own house than a random stranger's house, because I feel like insurance fraud's a thing, and that just seems like something more likely. The house was owned by someone who Scott had previous business dealings with, and who Scott had repeatedly accused of ripping him off. Well, what are you going to do about that? Burn his f***ing house down. That seems like a proportional response. However, the connection wasn't known until the victims saw Scott's face in news reports about the incident. Anyway, this story is an important lesson about planning and executing your crimes. When Scott arrived at the house with a bucket of accelerant, he set it on fire. What? Dude, you got to put the accelerant on the thing you want to set on fire and then light the accelerant. Dude, have you never made a fire in like a hearth? It's not like you get the fire starters in the box, set fire to them in the box, and then put them in the fireplace. No. You put them in the fireplace and then set fire to them. Is this really what's happened? After starting the fire, he then broke a window to the house so that he could toss the flaming accelerant inside. When he picked up the bucket and attempted to throw it into the house, it instead exploded, setting himself on fire. Dude, I don't know why it exploded. It's probably some chemical thing, but What are you doing? It's just crazy. There was a small fire on the exterior of the house as well, but emergency services were able to quickly put that out. Inside the house were 2 sleeping residents who were completely unharmed and possibly unaware that any of this had even happened until the police arrived. This guy's like, that's attempted murder right there. They gave police the footage from their security cameras, and Scott, who had already fled from the scene, was arrested the next day at a local hospital where he had gone to have his injuries treated. Scott was convicted of first-degree attempted arson, firebombing, and criminal mischief. Attempted murder! There were 2 people in the f***ing house. I realize that the latter charge is almost certainly just for breaking the window, but it still feels weird to have mischief listed as a charge when someone tried to burn down a house with people inside it. Yeah, that prosecutor is not ambitious enough. That should be attempted murder. Anyway, Scott was sentenced to 2 years in prison, followed by 2 years of community control, which is basically like house arrest. What happened to America? This is America! I mean, it's not, but this is. And this guy should be in prison for a longer time than 2 years because he attempted to burn down a house with 2 people inside. Just because he's an idiot doesn't mean that he should get less punishment. The intent was there. Florida man flees traffic stop, calls 911 to brag. This story could have been a simple traffic stop for a broken taillight, but 19-year-old Florida man Nicholas Jones had other ideas. Unaware of why he was even being pulled over in the first place, he decided that running away from the cops would be fun. That's a mistake, my dude. I feel like he must be young. He's got to be like 16, because only a 16-year-old or someone with the mental capacity of a 16-year-old would think that this is actually a good idea. It might be fun for about 5 minutes, but you're going to end up in big trouble. Also, who the f*** gets pulled over for a tail light that's out? I thought that was just something that happened in movies. I've never had a tail light go out. I've never replaced a tail light. Does this actually happen?
Yes.
Once the officer got out of his car and started walking towards the vehicle he had stopped, Nicholas spun his car around and sped away. It was a stupid thing to do, but he was actually going to get away with it. After all, the cop had only stopped him to let him know about a broken taillight. I've had that happen before, and it's usually just like a 30-second conversation. The officer hadn't taken down Nicholas's plate number or anything like that, as this was intended to be just a nothing traffic stop. But Nicholas had assumed that he had. And it was based on this false assumption that he decided to dial 911 about an hour later. He told the operator,
"Now, I want to know, so, I ran from a cop, 30 minutes to an hour ago. I was the guy who's over there off of Kings Estate. What do we pay you guys for? I've driven past 4 cops."
Wait, dude, they're not chasing you. How slow are you? Also, I would just assume if I've been pulled over by a cop, they have my license plate. Because those cars must be bristling in cameras, no? After clarifying what Nicholas meant when he said that he ran from a cop, the operator replied,
"Okay, so you want to now see the officer, or what is your question?"
Nicholas told her,
"My question is, I'm assuming he put an APB outage that has someone looking for my car. But, he definitely got the plate number. I passed 4 cops just driving around. What are you guys doing?"
Somebody fleeing from a traffic stop, obviously a big deal, especially because it probably means they're up to something far worse than whatever they were stopped for, but I have to say, it's a bit egotistical for Nicholas to believe that he was the target of an APB. Wait, is it? I feel if I ran away from a cop who had pulled me over, that cop would definitely be like,
"Looking for a black car with the right license and license plate number?"
Come on. If that feels completely like a reasonable assumption. There are a lot of Florida men out there committing much more serious crimes, dude. Your teenage hijinks aren't that important. Holy shit, I'm just I guess I overestimate the cops, because I'm I'm going to be in big trouble. What have I done? I'm an idiot. I better call them and apologize. I'd be like Nicholas. I wouldn't run from the cops in the first place, because I guess I just never had the mental capacity of a 16-year-old, even when I was 16. Also, I couldn't drive when I'm 16 because we have sensible laws in the UK. You have to wait until you're 17. It makes a big difference. America's weird. You can drive a car at 16 or even younger in some states, right? But they're like, no beer until you're 21. What the fuck? All they had to do was look at the caller ID and say, "Oh, I guess Nicholas Jones would like to go to jail now." Now that they had his name, cell phone number, and the knowledge that he had an outstanding warrant for a parole violation, using GPS to track Nicholas down was trivially easy. Police caught up to him inside a discount clothing store where he was placed into handcuffs. Though you'd think that this would be a scary or embarrassing thing to happen, Nicholas instead found it hysterical when police informed him that the original officer didn't have time to take down his plate and that he had told on himself. I like Nicholas. I like the fact that he can see the humor in that, because it is funny. I don't think it's hysterical, but I do think it's funny. And I like the fact that he can laugh on it, about it, even in this, like, pretty intense situation. Luckily for the arresting officers, Nicholas was inside a store at the time that they came to arrest him. According to the report, he was quoted as saying, "No cop can catch me in my Hyundai Elantra. That thing is fast." I don't know what an Elantra is, but bro, it's a Hyundai. Do Hyundai even make fast cars? While the Elantra is admittedly fast, okay, apparently they do. For the love of God, please don't assume that the police can't catch your stock unmodified car. It's like when tourists decide to be arseholes on the Autobahn because they think the law can't catch up to them, unaware that the German police are all driving Mercedes and BMWs. Yeah, but I mean, depending what you're driving, you are going to be able to outrun them. You're not. They are helicopters. Helicopters, faster. Nicholas was convicted of reckless driving, fleeing, or attempting to elude lights and siren active and false 911 calls. He received 110 days in jail. That feels like too much. What's going on with the justice system in Florida? Florida woman stabs boyfriend on side of road, gets hit by truck. An unnamed 30-year-old Florida woman was riding down the highway with an unnamed 27-year-old Florida man boyfriend driving. The two got into some sort of argument, although it's unknown what they were fighting about. Being Florida is probably like, whose meth is that's left over? Whatever it was serious enough that he felt the need to pull the car over. The two got out of the car and continued arguing, culminating with Florida woman grabbing a bottle, breaking it, and stabbing it into Florida man's neck. She then ran directly in front of a semi-truck, an action that was assumed to be an accidental consequence of her fleeing her attempted murder in panic, though there's no way to ever know, because semi-truck, she's dead. The boyfriend was rushed to the hospital and presumably survived, since otherwise we wouldn't even have the information we do. That poor truck driver didn't deserve that. Florida man steals car, immediately has fatal crash. It was about 8:30 p.m. on January the 23rd, 2024, when a 35-year-old Florida woman saw a car crashed on the side of the road. A 29-year-old Florida man had lost control of his car and crashed it into the median barrier, so Florida woman decided to stop and see if he needed any help. Good for you, Florida woman. But Florida man was less interested in her help and more interested in her car. Bro, you live in some sort of Grand Theft Auto situation? You crash your car so you just get out and steal the next car that you see? He immediately stole the car from the Good Samaritan and attempted to drive off. The man then lost control of her car as well, crashing through the median barrier into oncoming traffic, where he was hit by a semi. Florida man was not wearing his seatbelt, and so he suffered fatal wounds from the crash as a result. Yeah, wear your fucking seatbelt. You're stealing a car. You're about to do something dangerous. It's always like, the action heroes where they're like in a car chase or whatever. And it's like, bro, put your fucking seatbelt on. Are you crazy? I mean, he was probably going to die from that kind of crash anyway, but you should still always wear your seatbelt. And, not steal cars. Also, while I appreciate bad people getting their comeuppance, can we please stop traumatizing truck drivers? Yeah, like plowing a semi into a car that's come across the central reservation. Dude. Oh, I just spilt my Gamer Supps on the table. If you'd like to get your own Gamer Supps to spill on the table, you can go to gamersupps.gg/blaze. It's delicious and it's full of caffeine. It keeps me going. It allows me to create these videos. Maybe if you got Gamer Supps, you'll be able to create your own brilliant videos like these and then promote Gamer Supps in the beautiful cycle that is capitalism. gamersupps.gg/blaze. This is the last of my Arctic Cooler flavor, and it's not even as strong as I want because I didn't have a full scoop left. And so it kind of tastes a bit watered down, and now I don't know what to do because I've got a million other flavors, but that Arctic flavor cooler just fucking hits, dude. It's so good. Nobody likes being stuck in traffic. It's boring and stressful, but there's really nothing you can do about it. For 32-year-old Florida man Matthew Reiter, however, there was something you could do about it. Be an obnoxious arsehole. Matthew picked one driver in particular to be the target of his rage. Normally, you'd think it would be the car in front of him, since that was who was obstructing him from moving forward, but for some reason he chose the car beside him instead. He could have just rolled down the window and commiserated with fellow motorists about how much it sucked to be stuck in traffic. Even better, he could have just done nothing at all, instead of harassing some guy that was in the car with his family. Yeah, just shut the fuck up and sit in the traffic. Turn on the radio and have a chill time. I'm like, if I'm stuck in traffic and someone asks me to wind down the windows looking angry, I'm like, nah. I'm just going to say it, thank you. And then I'll reach over and press that little button with a lock on it. But instead, Matthew began yelling at the driver and using various hand gestures, I assume one of which involved the middle finger. Once congestion let up a bit and cars were able to move more freely, Matthew then drove up beside the car again and this time pointed his handgun directly at the driver. And that driver happened to be an off-duty cop, which would be a much more dramatic reveal were it not in the fucking headline. Police caught up with Matthew later in his home, where he was arrested and charged with 3 counts of improper exhibit of a firearm, 3 counts of aggravated assault with a weapon without intent to kill, and drug paraphernalia, just for good measure. Good, you idiot, dude. Florida man punches window or immediately regrets it. But yeah, glass is surprisingly strong. Like, you think it breaks easy? You punch a window, it's gonna hurt, dude. 32-year-old Florida man Enrique Rodriguez and 27-year-old Florida woman Amy Murphy have been in an on-again, off-again relationship for about 5 years. In September of 2024, the couple were currently sharing a house together in which they were raising their 2-year-old daughter, and also Enrique's daughter, with another woman. What was likely a normal day suddenly escalated into a major fight after Enrique saw a photo of Amy on social media that he felt made it seem as if she was acting like she was single. All right, chill, Enrique. It was... Home security footage saw Enrique slap and choke Amy before grabbing his daughter and leaving the house. Jesus Christ, that got serious real quick. He then changed his mind, or maybe forgot his car keys, and decided he needed to get back inside. The front door used an electronic keypad for entry, but Enrique was too incensed to type the code correctly. Amy started recording on her cell phone out of fear, with a video of what happened going viral. Enrique yelled, "Fucking pussy-ass bitch," at Amy before walking over to the window and punching it with his fist right through so that he could unlock and open the window to regain access to the house. That was undoubtedly his plan anyway, but it turns out glass is really sharp. Oh yeah, glass is hard, so if you punch it, it might not even break. And if it does break, you're going to get all cut up real bad. Punching through the window had caused Enrique to slice his entire arm open, and he immediately began screaming for Amy to help him and call the cops.
Oh my God! Amy, please call the cops, please! Amy, please!
She was initially too terrified to do anything and can faintly be heard sobbing in the video, but she eventually stopped recording and called 911. But not before Enrique yelled at her,
Bro, why are you doing this?
bruh. Sometimes I'll just call my wife bro or dude, and she'll be like, dude.
That's the coolest fucking story I've ever heard in my entire life. That's insane.
Enrique was taken to the hospital, where he took 3 days and at least 1 blood transfusion to recover. Following his release from the hospital, he was arrested and charged with 2 counts of battery. It wasn't until months later, when Enrique was publicly talking shit on Facebook about Amy keeping their daughter away from him, that she released the now viral video. Thanks to a plea deal, Enrique was only sentenced to 1 year probation and court-mandated anger management. Here's hoping this therapist isn't the guy from the Dramatic Irony episode, which may or may not have aired yet. Oh, I think I recorded that like yesterday. Florida man wins lottery, gets sued by victims. This time, the karma wasn't quite as instant as the other stories, as it didn't take place until almost 20 years after the original alleged crimes. Kevin, this is really stretching the definition of instant karma. In December of 2014, 43-year-old Florida woman Timothy Poole won the $3 million jackpot on a Florida scratch ticket. But this is America, so after taking a lump sum, he won $2.2 million, which he would then have to pay capital gains taxes on. Yeah, what the fuck, America? So what? Let's say he gets half the money, so he's left with he wins $3 million, he gets left with 1.1. I think gambling winnings should be taxed. I think it's fucking dumb that they're not in the UK. But it is kind of nice that if you do win £3 million on the lottery, you get £3 million. There's no lump sum, there's no tax, which there f***ing should be, but yeah, that seems like that's cool. I like that, even though I don't. As is customary for any lottery jackpot winner, in a lot of states at least, Timothy had to pose with an oversized $3 million check, and the photo was placed on the state lottery website. However, the picture was quickly taken down after information spread that Timothy was a registered sex offender. Back in 1997, Timothy was charged with sexually assaulting 2 brothers, aged 9 and 5. He had been a family friend and occasionally babysat the boys, and he was accused of assaulting them over the course of a year beginning in 1996. Rather than face trial on charge of sexual battery of a person under 12, which is a capital offense... Wait, does that mean you could be executed for it? Is that what a capital offense is? He pled guilty to attempted sexual battery. Timothy was sentenced to time served, registered as a sex offender, and put on probation. In 2003, he violated that probation by missing a counseling meeting, so he spent 3 years in prison. But through all of this, he has maintained that he is innocent and was falsely accused. Sure, technically that is possible. People plead guilty to crimes they didn't commit all the time, and while I find it hard to believe most people would plead guilty to something that involved them registering as a sex offender when the potential alternative is the death penalty, oh my god it is, then I suppose it becomes becomes more realistic. Thanks to a Florida law passed in 2010, which removed the statute of limitations for victims of child sex abuse seeking compensation, the two alleged victims sued Timothy for his lottery winnings. Excellent. Excellent. They wound up settling for an undisclosed amount, and a bill was proposed in Florida that would freeze lottery winnings of sex offenders for 1 year so that their victims had time to try and collect compensation. Well, in that case, sex offenders just ain't going to play the lottery anymore, are they? It does not appear that this bill actually passed, though. It wasn't all bad news for Timothy, though. Since his lottery winnings weren't frozen pending the result of the lawsuit, he had time to use his newfound fortune to move out of his trailer and into a mobile home. Congratulations to him going up in the world. And that's where we end today's episode. Thanks for being here. Shut the fuck up! It is Tuesday night.